A Russian court has charged 4 suspects with terrorism after an attack on a concert hall near Moscow left more than 130 people dead. While Daesh's Afghan affiliate has claimed responsibility for the attack, Russian President Vladimir Putin said the attackers tried to escape to Ukraine. Kiev has denied any involvement. After the assault, France raised its terror alert warning to the highest level, while Germany and Türkiye have both captured Daesh suspects in the past week. Just days after the Moscow terror attack, Turkish security forces carried out a series of operations at suspected Daesh hideouts across Türkiye. Authorities said 40 suspects were captured in 8 provinces. This is part of a bigger effort initiated in June against the terror group, which included over 1,000 operations and the arrests of nearly 700 suspects. More than 300 people have been killed in Türkiye from multiple attacks by Daesh. Türkiye has also fought the terror group in northern Syria and Iraq. And for more on the latest Moscow attack by Daesh and Turkish efforts to crack down on the terror group, joining me now from Doha is Marwan Kabalan. He's the Director of Policy Analysis at the Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies. And from Ankara, Bilgehan Ozturk, a researcher at SETA Foundation. A warm welcome to you both, and thanks for joining me on Strait Talk. So, Bilgehan, the attack in Moscow is the deadliest terrorist attack in Russia in 20 years. So what kind of a message was Daesh trying to send to Russia and its leadership?
I think when it comes to terror organizations and their terror attacks, it is more of a convenience rather than a very, let's say, picky, selecting of a target. So what I mean is, when terrorist organizations are especially in retreat, in their let's say worse processes compared to their previous previous performances, they try to undertake terror attacks wherever they can, whenever they can, rather than being very selective in their targets. So I'm sure they have certain messages to send Moscow, but in my opinion, this attack was kind of a more convenience type of terror attack for Daesh-K, and in that sense, those kind of messages and symbolism are neglectable, in my opinion.
So, but Marwan, why is Daesh targeting U.S. adversaries like Russia and Iran? And could this latest attack be construed as part of Daesh operations, which recently struck Pakistan and Iran, killing hundreds of people?
First of all, thank you for having me. I think they are targeting almost everybody, not only Iran and Russia or U.S. adversaries. I think they will target anybody, any party, but maybe Russia and Iran, because the security measures are not as tough as they are probably in Europe or in the United States. So this is why they are finding some weak places in order to launch their attacks. And they are trying to say that we are still here, we are still alive and kicking, and the defeat of ISIL in Syria and Iraq during the war between 2014 and 2019 has not led to the complete destruction of ISIL. So I think that was the clear message. And don't forget, after all, that the Americans said that they have warned the Russians.
Yes.
That there seems to be a terror attack in Moscow, but probably the Russians, they have not taken that seriously, the warning from the US seriously.
So, Bilgehan, is this a huge failure on Russia's intelligence, the FSB, for not being able to foresee this deadly attack coming?
It is debatable because we still don't know whether, let's say, Americans, delivered the intelligence to Russian authorities, and whether if they did, Russians took it seriously. So there are many unknowns in this. But if there is a failure, let's say, in getting the intelligence of this kind of an attack, we can say that it is a failure. But I think when, let's say, Russian Federation is in an all-out war with Ukraine, when this kind of, let's say, readiness or preoccupation exists on the part of a state actor, we usually expect failures on other fronts. So, in my opinion, since Russia is preoccupied in a conventional war in Ukraine, I think the security, let's say, alert and security readiness of the related, let's say, institutions were kind of weak on the part of towards more terror kind of attacks.
So, Marwan, the terrorists who carried out the Moscow attacks came from Tajikistan. The question is, what impact will these attacks have on Russia's relations with several Central Asian nations?
I think Russia might reconsider its relationship with the Central Asian republics now after the disclosure about the Tajik participation, citizen participation in this attack, because, as you know, there is millions of Central Asian citizens who are living in Russia, and because these republics have being part of the former Soviet Union, it's much more easier for them actually to have access to Russia. So probably it will have huge impact on the relationship between Russia and these countries. Probably we'll see more security measures taken by the Russians. Probably the access might be restricted perhaps more for the citizens of these countries. So the Russians will, from now on, perhaps take more precautionary measures concerning the entrance of the citizens from Central Asian republics into Russia.
So, Bilgehan, Türkiye, which was targeted by Daesh in the past, has recently stepped up its anti-terror operations to crack down on its militants within its borders. And just this week, Turkish police nabbed dozens of suspects across several provinces. So what do we know about these recent raids and who they detained?
Well, in the latest round, at least, there were 40, let's say, operations, ongoing simultaneous operations in multiple provinces in Turkey. And actually, these kind of operations are catching the attention of the public, especially when there is an attack. But even when there is no attack, these kind of operations almost periodically, let's say, happening in Turkey because of the awareness of the security institutions. They are constantly cracking down on sympathizers and cells within Turkey, and for a very long time. So, since the annihilation of Daesh presence in Syria and Iraq, their territorial control, the operations have been always a kind of a police operations and legal, let's say, procedures towards Daesh, because Daesh was not anymore capable of undertaking kinetic attacks on Turkish soil thanks to the annihilation of their territorial control in Syria and Iraq. So for a very long time, there is a persistence of police operations towards Daesh in parallel with their nature of existence on Turkish soil.
So, Marwan, what do you think? I mean, following these operations, does Turkey face a renewed risk of being targeted by the terror group? And is there going to be any direct ramification in Syria's north, where Turkey has been fighting both Daesh and the other terror organization, YPG?
Well, I think, as we said before, everybody seems to be a target for ISIL, especially, I mean, so many countries participated in the destruction of the ISIL Khilafah in Syria and Iraq over the past 10 years, since 2014. And I think, yes, Turkey is just like other countries, is in the eye of the storm, perhaps. Although Turkey has managed over the past few years, in fact, to clamp down on many of the ISIL sympathizers. But we have seen in recent months a rise in the attacks of ISIL inside Syria. In fact, they are attacking convoys, they are attacking civilians, they are attacking also militias that are affiliated with Iran and with the Syrian regime. Although in the region where Turkey is having more influence in the north and northwest of Syria, we don't see much of ISIL activities, because this is not a friendly environment for ISIL, because everybody is almost fighting the organization in this part of Syria. So this is why I think they are trying to concentrate perhaps more on places where they can actually find easy targets, either in Syria or in other places.
Yes. So, Bilgehan, what does this latest attack by Daesh tell us about the organization's capabilities, and how well organized and sophisticated was it?
When you look at the, let's say, organization type, sophistication, the readiness of the militants, it seems like, they had kind of a free hand, because looking at the let's say fire in the Crocus City Hall, it seems like they used kind of an explosive, and they had assault rifles. So when you have a really strict control or clamping down on militants' capabilities, you usually see more archaic type, more primitive type of attacks, kind of stabbing, ramming. But when you look at this, you see assault rifles and maybe explosives, and the number of people killed. That means they had a free hand, relatively free hand, in organizing, planning, and undertaking this attack. So I can say they had a favorable time and environment to plan and undertake this operation.
So, Marwan, several European countries have raised terror alert levels. So how tense is the situation there? And could this attack further encourage Daesh supporters worldwide?
Well, I think almost everybody now, after the Moscow attacks, actually is probably concerned about possible operations, similar operations in other places. I think the Europeans, they have always been soft target for such activities. We remember what happened, for example, in France several times over the past few years, in fact. So this is why, this explains also why French president yesterday, he offered a sort of cooperation with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, although the two countries are at odds concerning Ukraine. Nevertheless, they are offering to have some sort of cooperation, because, as I said before, everybody actually believes that ISIL might be wreaking havoc across the region and the world if it's not stopped, or there has been some sort of cooperation between countries in order to contain it and destroy it one more time.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Strait Talk.